Hello, good people. Welcome to Good Things Fashion Tutorial. Today, we are going to learn how to make this beautiful, stylish abaya, beautiful, trendy, stylish abaya. And in order to achieve that, I have here with me 3 years of crepe material, 3 years of crepe fabric. And the first thing we are going to do is to fold our fabric using the largest part of our body and also making allowance for our leg movement to make it easy to walk. We are going to add 6 inches to the largest part of our body. The largest part of my body is my hips, which is 48 inches, divided by 4, which gives me 12 inches. That 12 inches, I now add 6 inches to it, making 18 inches. Now, plus 1 inch sewing allowance, making 19 inches. And that's what I'm using to fold my fabric, 19 inches. Make sure the fabric is folded 19 inches on top and on the bottom in this manner. This is the fabric folded. I already measured out the 19 inches. And the first thing we are going to do is to draw a starting line. We draw a starting line to make sure we are starting on an even surface to remove the selvage. Now, the abaya has a pleat in front. It has an inverted pleat design in front, and for that, I'm marking out 3 inches. This is me marking out the 3 inches for the pleat. You can use more than 3 inches. You can use any size you want. You can use 2 inches. You can use 4, 5, any amount. After marking out the 3 inches, this is me marking out my shoulder measurement, which is 8 inches. Now, from that shoulder measurement, I mark out my shoulder slant of 1 inch. 1 inch. Now, the next thing is to mark out my armhole of 10 inches. My armhole circumference of 10 inches, dividing it by 2, it should be 20, but divided by 2 is 10 inches. And after that, this is me making sure that the measurements of that 8 inch and the 3 inch is accurate to where I finish the end of the armhole. Now, this is me drawing my armhole line. Now, after drawing my armhole line, the next thing I'm trying to do now is to mark that 3 inches allowance for the front slit down the entire front of the folded fabric. And I'm after marking it down straight to the edge of the fabric. This is me drawing out the line in order to avoid confusion, knowing that my measurement is starting from that 3 inches allowance. It's going to be a kissing pleating in front of the abaya. Now, this is me checking out my measurement again to make sure that I have uh, accurate measurement for my shoulder length. Now, this is me marking out my bust length on that shoulder line. I mark out my bust length. My bust length, my bust measurement divided by 4. And that's what I mark down plus sewing allowance of. I mark out my bust circumference divided by 4 plus 1 inch ease allowance and another 1 inch for sewing allowance, making 2 inches extra. Now, the next thing is to determine the middle of the armhole. the middle of the armhole, which is 5 inches. And after determining that, I now go in by 0.5 inches into the body of the fabric. And this the next thing is to draw the armhole curve, which will pass through that 0.5 inches that I marked inside the armhole line, at the 0.5 inch that I mark inside the armhole line. You can see the armhole curve passing right through it, because that's the front. I'm doing the front of the gown first. This is the front part. Now the next thing is to mark my neck circumference. I mark the neck circumference to be 4 inch length and 3.5 inch width. I made the width 3.5 and the length 4 inch. You can actually use your preferred measurement. And this is me drawing the neck circumference here, and I'm marking it out towards that 3 inches, indicating that I'm going to cut out all those area. Now the next thing is to mark out my gown length. This is me measuring out my gown length, and from there I will draw down the hem of the gown. I'm going to, this is me drawing it out, joining it together to that 19 inches. Note that I arrived at my hem width by dividing my hips circumference by 4, and now added 6 inches ease allowance plus 1 inch sewing allowance, to which I now added the 3 inches for the pleating in the front of the garment. Now the next thing is to join the bust point to the hem of the gown in front here, from the armhole line. This is me joining the bust point to the hem of the gown. This abaya has no waist measurement. It is an A line shape, and the A line is starting from the bust. The A line is starting from the bust, and that is what I'm doing now, joining the bust measurement to the hem of the fabric, to the hem of the gown. You can see it. This is what I have after drawing the gown length. The next thing is to cut out my gown, the front of the gown. Now I just remember here that I did not mark out my shoulder slant that I marked earlier on. I did not draw it, and that's what I just did. And I continue to cut out my measurements, the front of the gown. After cutting it out, this is what I have. This is the front part of the abaya. Now I pinned down the fabric at the 3 inch line so that it does not move around. The measurement does not get distorted or disorganized while moving it. So I just put a few office pin to pin down that 3 inch measurement there, especially at the upper part of the gown, because that is where we are going to make the pleating. Now I remember to put a notch at that point, 3 inches point for the front pleating. I notch it also to be able to, for the measurement not to be distorted. The next thing is to cut the back of the abaya. The next thing is to cut the back of the abaya, and I already folded my fabric and I placed the front of the gown, which we already cut, on top of the folded fabric, making sure that the 3 inches pleating allowance is moved out of the front of the fabric. You can see it. That 3 inch is out of the edge of the back of the fabric. I make sure I pull it out because the back does not have a pleating. The back does not have any pleating, so I make sure that it's well out of the way. Now this is me cutting out the back of the fabric. Remember to at the armhole area, remember to go out by 0.5 inches at the middle of the armhole, because this is the back of the gown. You went in by 0.5 inches at the front. We are going to come out by 0.5 inches at the back. Now you can see the 3 inches pleating allowance that I pinned down the other time. Now we are going to work on it next, and the first thing we are going to do is to sew it down at that 3 inches. And from my I wanted the pleating to stop at the top of the bust, and for me my bust length is actually 12 inches from the shoulder. So I minus the 4 inches which I made for the neck circumference, and I mark out the remaining points. I mark out the remaining measurements, which is 8 inches, and that's where I'm going to sew now. All those places I'm drawing a chalk, I'm going to sew it down for the front slit, and this is what I have after sewing it down. After sewing it, then you open it up in this manner, spread out the pleating allowance in this manner, and you will now sew it to the neckline. You will sew it to the neck circumference. You can first of all pin it down like so. I'm using office pin to pin it down on two sides before sewing it down to the neck circumference. You will sew it to follow that neck circumference at that exact place. After spreading it out, you now sew it down. You sew it down in that place, just a little stitch to hold it to the neck circumference in that manner. This is what I have after sewing it down. I already sewed it. You can see it pinned down, and you can see it the way it's looking after sewing it. I'll now remove the office pin that I used to hold it down here later, and this is what I have. Now the next thing is to attach the bias, this beautiful bias that I bought according to the design. We sew it down on top of that place that was joined, that length, that 8 inches length that I joined in front. You sew it down on both sides. Make sure you place it right on top of the middle of the seam, and sew it down on two sides. I'm using office pin to hold it down. Make sure it is well centered. Make sure you center the bias in at exactly the seam should be at the middle of the bias tape. Make sure it's exactly at the center of your chest so that it is well positioned. And this is me using my office pin to pin it down at that middle so that when I'm sewing it, it will not move around. You now turn it when you finish it up, you turn the end of it inward and sew it down on all sides. Make sure it's well sewn. This is what it looks like. Now this is what I have after sewing it down on top of the pleat. This is what I have. You can see it. Now the next thing is to place the back of the gown on top of the front. Make the right side facing each other, and then I'll join them at the shoulder. After placing them on top of each other, right side facing each other, I will now join the two side at the shoulder. I'll join them at the shoulder. Now the next thing is the sleeve. This is my sleeve. I already cut them out. If you need help with cutting the sleeve, check out my channel. I have a comprehensive video on how to construct a proper sleeve. But I already made this sleeve, and from the style of this abaya, you can see that sleeve is in two proportion, the upper part and the lower part. And for me, I use 3/4 length of my sleeve length for the upper part, which is 16 inches. My entire sleeve length is 23. So when I use 3/4 to make the upper part, the remaining side is 7 inches. And that 7 inches, and now I still added 4 inches to it because of the elastic and the for it to be fuller. I made sure the sleeve width is just 1 inch smaller than the armhole to have a full effect. You can see the sleeve, the sleeve, the hem of the sleeve is just 1 inch, uh, sl- uh, 1 inch shorter than the armhole length. And after joining the two side, I joined the upper part of the sleeve and the lower side. And this is me demonstrating how you are going to attach your bahas, that uh, stylish, beautiful bahas tape. I've already attached it here. You can see it. I've already attached the bias tape here. The bias the bias design for the sleeve. I already sew it using the same method I use for the front pleating. I already sew it down at the middle of that of the joining of the upper part and the lower part of the sleeve. And this is what I have. My armhole is 20 plus 1 inches. But my armhole is I use 10 inches for my armhole folded plus 1 inch is 11. Now for the hem of my sleeve, I use 10 inches. I use 10 inches, just 1 inch, just 1 inch short of the armhole in order for it to be full by the time I put in the elastic at the hem of the sleeve. And I also added 4 inches to the sleeve length, the entire sleeve length. I added 4 inches to it, which means the other side, the second side of the sleeve, I added 4 inches to it, so that by the time I attach it and I'm wearing it, it will be full. It will have a full effect on my hand. Now, this is me demonstrating how you are going to attach the sleeve. After notching the middle of the top of the sleeve, you notch it so that you know where you are going to attach to the sleeve sleeve and sew it down. Then we are going to put in our elastic, and the first thing is to first of all go to the sewing machine and sew down the hem of the sleeve. You sew it down first time. Make sure you the first one you turn it once and sew it down. Then the second time you will turn it again, and now that one will be a bit bigger. You will now sew it down, and that is where we are going to insert our sleeve, insert our elastic rather. In order for the elastic to easily attach and for a neat job, you first of all turn the hem of the sleeve like this and sew it. You turn it and sew it down. This is what I have after sewing the hem of the sleeve down the first time. This is what I have. Now the next thing is to go and sew it again the second time, making sure that this time around is a bit bigger than what I used the last time. The first turning was around 0.5 inches. This time it's a little bit below 1 inch, maybe 0.75. Nothing much, but enough for the elastic to be inserted. We are using a small elastic. You measure your sleeve uh, sleeve circumference and your sleeve, the hem of your sleeve on your wrist. Measure your wrist round and use it to cut your elastic. You measure around your sleeve area in this manner, nothing tight, just enough for you to be comfortable. And that's what we are going to use to measure out our elastic plus 1 inch sewing allowance. Then we attach our safety pin to the two sides of the elastic. After cutting the exact size that you need, attach safety pin to the two edge. Then attach one of the safety pin to the beginning of the fabric where you are going to insert the elastic away from the hole. Then you are going to take the other safety pin and insert it into the hole. After sewing it down, insert the safety pin in this manner. The first safety pin will make sure that you don't lose the elastic, because you know the fabric you are working on is longer than the elastic you are using. So this is what I have after inserting my elastic. This is what I have. I will also do the same thing to the other side. Now this is what I have after sewing the after inserting the elastic to the hem of the sleeve. This is what I have. This is how it's going to look like. You can see it very neat. I also made the other side, the other sleeve the same way. I also finished the other sleeve. The next thing is to pipe the neck of the gown, and I've decided to use a piece of fabric. I cut out a strip of the same crepe material, about 1.5 inches, or you can use 2 inches. Then you fold it together, fold it together in this manner, and place it on the right side of the fabric and sew it down round round the neck circumference. You fold it together, wrong side facing each other, right side outside. Then you place it on the neck of the gown and sew it round the neck circumference. Sew it round. After sewing it round, you now turn it inside and sew it again. After sewing it down, then you now turn it inside and you sew it again, like that. After that, the next thing is to join the material on all the side, from the sleeve to the body of the gown, and also to turn the hem of the gown. Turn it twice and sew it down. This is the finished work. This is the abaya. This is the stylish trendy abaya. You can see the front pleat, the pleating at the front, looking beautiful. And this is the sleeve. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, share and subscribe to this channel so that you'll be notified whenever I post a new video. Thank you very much. Please leave a comment. If you have any question, you can drop your question. And if you have any suggestion for any uh, design you want to be made, you can also drop it and I will work on it. Thank you very much.